I am back.
There's absolutely nothing to worry about.
The clock was ticking. We all knew this day was coming. We just didn't know what form it would take. That day has come, and if I was Halley Bailey, I'd be pissed. Every time Disney has been faced with a choice lately, they seem to go out of their way to pick the wrong one. The writers and actor strikes gave Disney a lot of extra time to try and decide what to do with Rachel Zegler, the hole she dug herself into, and Disney, not to mention the fate of their latest money pit, Snow White. For their opening gambit, they went old school, sitting Rachel down in a head-to-head with Little Mermaid star Halley Bailey. When I say old school, I mean the old Hollywood mentality of repackaging the problematic star in a situation that casts that person in a better light and essentially behave like nothing had ever happened.
If that's old school, what's new school?
Well, due to the rise of social media, we've become accustomed these days to the infamous apology video.
When I tell you that it's hard, I just mean to be inside my brain. That's hard. And I'm there 24/7. I can't get out of it.
From a previous apology video. There, the offender can address the issue head on, make their apologies directly, and then the audience can judge for themselves how sincere the person really is.
So a ukulele
is less than ideal. So she's sitting in this very staged chat with Bailey in a 40-minute variety special. Listening to Rachel in this old school method, you can clearly hear that she's been giving talking points.
This carpet is a person with feelings.
Sorry. Here's the right clip.
The cartoon's so beloved. It's like a monumental moment in film history.
Yeah.
It's like
She has to work in several key phrases in there, and you can almost hear her checking those boxes off mentally in her head as she speaks.
the first feature-length cartoon movie, to the point where it won honorary Oscars and all of these amazing things that happened for that film are the reason that you and I really get to sit here today, because it made Disney what it is.
But some of what she's saying is a direct contradiction to the that got her in trouble in the first place.
Right, that's the core tenet of this old school method. In essence, they're banking on you being too stupid to notice, but you are being manipulated both covertly and overtly. Now, to be clear, sometimes manipulation isn't always a bad thing. Let's face it, we go to the movies to have our thoughts and emotions manipulated. But it's important to know when it's being used. Let's look at some of the covert stuff going on here. Visually, everything is carefully staged, calm, muted colors, very soft light. Rachel herself is portrayed very softly, very feminine.
Looks like they even may have gone as far as to use the soft focus that the OG Star Trek would use on female guest stars.
You'll note that all of this is in direct contrast to the Rachel who has been portrayed to us so far, who is brash, harsh, opinionated, arrogant, entitled, and has no problem even cutting down her own co-stars, let alone the legendary movie hers is based on.
All of Andrew's scenes could get cut. Who knows? It's Hollywood, baby.
Continuing with the covert messaging, notice she's not paired with Gal Gadot, as in all the previous videos that got her into this mess. Since Gal was agreeing and almost egging Rachel on in those videos, she could probably do with this a little bit of image rehab herself, but instead of pairing her with her Snow White co-star, they put her with Halley Bailey. They're trying to create an association in our minds that these girls are the same. To be clear, they were both initially in the same boat, to be sure. Both were controversial casting choices that caused a lot of backlash. But the reality is that's where the commonalities end. As you might expect, the interview is full of the nauseating dump trucks of hollow praise that they both pile on each other, and the two talk about the backlash they each received with the implication that that's all there was. That was the main problem.
So blaming the fans and customers again.
So I think the problem is you.
Right. This is a deflection. Were there casting issues here? That's for another video. But the bottom line is that it's not the core issue here. regardless of how much they'd like us to think that it was. The real issue is how these two handled their respective situations. Bailey was a complete professional. She soldiered on with a smile and won people over with her charm and humbleness. As a consequence, all that was left was for people to judge the film on its own merits.
The result being that people's initial gut reactions were right, and that the film never should have existed in the first place.
Right you are, Doge. That's actually a really important point, and I'll get to that in a minute. And then there's how Rachel handled her situation. In an ideal world, people should only be judged for their actions, and it's Rachel's words and actions that are the real thing at issue here.
The thing Disney is trying to divert attention from.
It's funny, in the comment sections of one of my other videos about Rachel, someone made the observation that she was probably a mean girl in high school. And it's a thought that just keeps resonating in my head.
It tracks.
Right? Imagine a mean girl with some singing talent in your high school who's suddenly scooped up by none other than Steven Spielberg to star in a remake of West Side Story.
The story is so fantastical, it sounds like a fairy tale by itself.
Right? How could that not go straight to your head? Now, I'm not going to beat a dead horse over how she handled her situation, as we've all heard those clips 1,000 times, and I have PTSD editing these videos and listening to her voice over and over and over and over and over again.
Weird.
But if you're keen on a Rachel refresher, we've got that video for you here. But what I think is important is to remind people about her other actions outside of those Snow White comments. She attacked Britney Spears, who was going through mental issues of her own, by mocking her tweets to her sister Jamie Lynn.
Jamie Lynn, seriously? Come on! Please stop with these crazy lies for the Hollywood books. Now and only now. I do know only a scum person would make up such things about someone.
Then at another point, she sent her fan base to attack Gina Carano on Twitter for not using pronouns in her bio. Someone else who is having a hard time, having been fired by Disney. Kicking people when they're down seems to be a theme.
Leave Britney alone, bitch.
She not only attacked Gina Carano over the pronouns thing, but went full Wicked Witch of the West and sent all of her flying monkeys of followers to harass and attack Gina as well.
Definitely giving off those mean girl vibes.
It does reek of immature high school behavior, not to mention that old cliche of dishing it out and not being able to take it. But in the overt manipulation category, they really want to drive home the message that Halley and Rachel are the same. The train really jumps the tracks and goes over the shark when Halley says this.
The way you are just so graceful and respond and it's just the most beautiful thing to see. Because it's hard being women under the spotlight. People are so critical.
That's right. She openly praises Rachel for responding to the criticisms the way Halley did. No, she didn't. That's the whole issue.
I believe that's gaslighting.
Which is what you do when you eat too much people food.
Rude.
If I were Miss Bailey, I would be pissed. Disney is using her like a paper towel to wipe up Zegler's mess.
He's right, though. Keep candles and open flame away from my butt.
One of the benefits for Disney is if this interview, and I call it that for lack of a better term, went sideways, Disney could distance themselves from both of them.
What advice would you offer on the present
If anything, I don't think this interview really helps Rachel at all in the long run, because we've seen her true self already. You can't put that genie back in the bottle.
Hey now.
Different movie, sorry. I think Halley is the big winner here. She's still being the team player. She's doing what it takes for Team Princess. And I think she's probably got a great career in front of her. But as for her partner, I alluded to it earlier, but the other thing to really take note here is how this interview is being put out. It's a 40-minute variety interview. The average person isn't even going to be aware of it, and they're certainly not going to watch it for 40 minutes. The main consumers of this video are going to be industry professionals and people like me. The main consumers of this video are going to be industry professionals and YouTubers like me who are going to fill the internet with videos like this one.
Disney is testing the waters.
Wow, what did I eat?
Exactly. They're putting a tentative little toe out there to see how well this spin session is received. The results are going to dictate their next steps, and they really want to avoid taking the step that they should have taken when all of this broke initially. Both of these young women were thrust into a situation that never should have existed in the first place. These movies should never have existed. No one wanted them. They have not made Disney anything even approaching decent returns, and each subsequent one is making less and less. Disney, your customers are not stupid. We know a blatant, soulless cash grab when we see one, and that's all you've been throwing at us lately. Despite the fact that Disney has lost more than $1 billion with a B just at the box office alone in 2023, despite the fact that people are openly rejecting these remakes, they still opted to just push Snow White into 2025 and replace the 7 Portland baristas with CGI dwarves.
Along with the hope that we'll just forget about Zegler?
Of course, but even if that were to happen to some degree, this is already a losing proposition. There is no way a movie no one asked for is going to make its money back, let alone the money they're pouring into this sinkhole. Even if they crafted the absolute perfect Snow White film, it's not going to happen. Disney has a bad habit of throwing good money after bad. Look at Dial of Destiny. It went into reshoots multiple times, and Indy is a much stronger IP than Snow White.
Warner had the right idea.
Solid point, Fartmaster Doge. Warner co-CEO Peter Safran once told Variety, Batgirl was not releasable. And it happens sometimes. I actually think that David Zaslav and the team made a very bold and courageous decision to cancel it because it would have hurt DC. It would have hurt those people involved. They made the hard choice to look at the big picture and shut it down, even though it was already in the can. It was also starring Michael Keaton as Batman and the hugely repopular Brendan Fraser.
Is that a word?
It is now. Ironically, Disney themselves is no stranger to this kind of move, actually pulling content like Willow off of Disney Plus to use it as a tax write-off. And that stuff was completely done. When this all hit the fan, Snow White should have been unplugged. Shut down. Full stop. But instead of shutting it down along with all the other live-action zombie movies they've got in the pipeline, take some time, regroup, reassess, they're tripling down on yet another set of reshoots.
And started a civil war amongst the shareholders.
They're tired of losing money, and I don't blame them. Nelson Peltz of Trian Fund Management is one of the largest shareholders, and he's making a play for 2 seats on the board and will likely call for Iger's head if he's successful. Rumor also has it that if he's unsuccessful, he and several other major shareholders, including this guy who's got his own beef with Disney, as we well know, will sell all of their shares to Apple.
Allegedly.
And then things would get real interesting, as I'm pretty sure it would give them controlling interest in the company.
Apple Plus would merge into Disney Plus.
Don't get me started. But as far as Rachel is concerned, I'd like to think that she's learned some valuable lessons from all of this. I'm sure she's probably even lost some job opportunities because of this. So I'm hoping some maturing has happened. But time will no doubt tell because, she's got a bad habit with...
You have a way with words.
No.
Word vomit.
Rita Moreno, you are a national treasure. Stay fresh, cheese bags.